We have a crisis in the world, tremendous crisis, and also crisis in our consciousness, in us. I see the urgency of change, radical revolution, mutation in the mind. I see it. It is necessary. There is complete quietness of the mind, and that which is silent has vast space. Only then that which is nameless comes into being.
This is Urgency of Change, the Krishnamurti podcast. In the awakening of intelligence is the beginning of the total happy security of human beings. Nowhere else will you have security except in that. Hello and welcome to episode 275 of Urgency of Change. Each episode of the Krishnamurti podcast is based on a significant theme of his talks. Extracts have been carefully selected to represent Krishnamurti's different approaches to these universal and timeless topics. This episode's theme is Awakening Intelligence. This is a podcast from Krishnamurti Foundation Trust. Please visit the official YouTube channel for hundreds of full-length video and audio recordings of Krishnamurti's talks and discussions. In addition, the Foundation's own channel features a large collection of shorter clips. You can also find our regular Krishnamurti quotes and videos on Instagram, TikTok and Facebook at Krishnamurti Foundation Trust. If you enjoyed the podcast, please leave a review or rating on your podcast app. This episode on awakening has 4 sections. This first extract is from the second question and answer meeting in Saanen, 1981, and is titled Intelligence Cannot Be Cultivated.
Once the speaker was standing, waiting for a bus in a long queue in London. A man with a bowler hat, chapeau de melon, walked all past the long queue, got in front. And the man next to him took his hat down, off his head, and passed it down. And the man had to go back. But if the man was aware, he wouldn't have done it. But most of us are so concerned with our own problems, with our own, all the muck that we have collected for generations. With that we are concerned. And intelligence is something entirely different. It's the book of a title, The Awakening of Intelligence. But is intelligence to be slowly awakened? Is it a process? No. Process implies time. Right? I am asleep, I'll gradually wake up. It may be a waking up immediately, which may have a split-second interval, which is time. Or it may take a long time. Process implies time. That's one thing. What is intelligence? When you say he's an intelligent man, what do you mean by that? Intelligence, according to dictionary meaning, is to have the capacity, please listen, to read between the lines, to read between the words, and also it means gathering information by observing, by learning, by what? Information around you, and acting according to that information, reading between the lines, all that is implied, intelligence, in the sense, thought is operating. That is, thought is reading between the lines, between the words, the hidden meaning. And also, thought is gathering information by watching, seeing, hearing, optically reading, and so on. It's gathering. Out of that gathering, reading between the lines, acting is so-called intelligence, right? That is, to be very clever, to be sharp, to discuss opinions, holding on to your opinions because you, etc., etc., etc. All that is generally called intelligence, right? The speaker is questioning that, whether that is intelligence. Or intelligence is something entirely different. Are we together in this? The speaker is not laying down anything. He's not being dogmatic. But together we are inquiring. We have accepted intelligence as we have just now described. And also we say it is intelligence to go off to Asia and meditate from somebody or other. You follow? All these patterns have been repeated over and over again, and we call that intelligence. Now we're asking, what is the depth of intelligence? Depth. That is very superficial, right? You understand? Gathering information, reading between the lines, watching, learning, and cultivating that intelligence of thought, which is common to all mankind. We say that intelligence is really destroying humanity because it's competitive, because it has been reduced to individual intelligence, right? It has been reduced to Einstein this or that. So it has that intelligence, which is the product of thought, that has become competitive, aggressive, and so is gradually destroying human beings. And we are saying that is not intelligence. There must be another quality of intelligence. Right? Now we are going to inquire together into that quality of intelligence. Not by listening, inquiring, you're going to get that intelligence. But if one has the capacity to patiently inquire into it, the very inquiry is that intelligence. Is that very concrete? Have you understood this? We say humanity has accepted that as intelligence. We are not discussing it. We are pointing out its dangerous nature. Well, now we are beginning to inquire into what is the very root of intelligence, the depth of it, the extraordinary vitality of it, the tremendous energy that's involved in that intelligence. And in that intelligence, there is love, compassion. We are inquiring into that. Now, to inquire The brain must be free from its tether, from its prejudices, from its conclusions, from its limited, narrow tradition. All tradition is narrow. So the brain that begins to inquire into what is the depth and the quality of a brain that's compassionate, love. To inquire, to penetrate rather than inquire, penetrate is to have a brain that is completely free. Otherwise you cannot penetrate, obviously. If I am tethered to my belief, tied to my family, tied to a conclusion, the brain is limited. It functions in a very narrow, limited way. Whereas, if the brain is free from its anchorage, from its attachment, then it can penetrate. Because a mind that is free can only penetrate, right? Obviously. That brain that is free is already intelligent. It hasn't, that intelligence cannot be cultivated. You understand? The very truth of freedom is intelligence. Because love is not jealousy, love is no hate, love doesn't belong to one group or one family. Love and compassion is not individual compassion for somebody. It is love and compassion and intelligence go together. And from that comes right action. Now, if one has really understood, not intellectually, in your heart of hearts, then it is, you are intelligent.
The second extract is from Krishnamurti's third talk in Saanen, 1977, and is titled The Three Essential Things in the Awakening of Intelligence.
There are these three essential things in the awakening of intelligence, which is the art of listening to communicate not only verbally but non-verbally exactly what you mean, and you listen without distortion. That is the art of learning. The art of seeing is to observe clearly without a direction, without motive, without any form of desire, but to merely to observe. Right? And then there is the art of learning, accumulating knowledge, and which means registering all the things that are necessary for skillful action, and non-registering any psychological responses, any psychological reactions, so that the brain is employing itself where function, skill are necessary to knowledge, and the brain is free not to register. Right? I wonder if you understand this. It's very arduous, this, to be so totally aware, so that you only register what is necessary and not, absolutely not register anything which is not necessary. Someone insults you, someone flatters you, someone calls you this or that, no registration. Right? This gives tremendous clarity. Right? Not only with regard to skill, which is the outcome of knowledge. Why am I getting so? It's very exciting. You don't know what it means. I was thinking about it yesterday. I wanted to talk about it day before yesterday, but it slipped. To register and not to register. So there is no psychological building up of the me, the structure of the self. The structure of the self arises only when there is registration of everything that is not necessary. That is, giving importance to the name, to one's name, form, one's experience, one's opinions, conclusions, all that is the gathering up of the energy of the self, which is always distorting. Right? Right? Shall we go on? I mean, please, I can go on. But you must keep together with me. We're taking the journey together. I'm not walking ahead of you or walking behind you. We're all moving together. So, where there is the art of learning, where there is putting everything in its right place. Therefore, to listen without any conclusion, without any opinion, which are all distorting factors. And in that listening, one discovers the false and the true. Without any effort, because when there is actual attention given to listening, that very attention excludes everything that's not absolute factual. Right? And in the art of seeing, when one observes with one's conclusions, opinions, dogmas, beliefs, you cannot possibly see very clearly, obviously. And the art of learning. Learning to accumulate knowledge, to act in life skillfully. But any other form of registering distorts, gives importance to skill, and therefore it becomes mechanical. I hope you understand this, right? You see this? So, the art of listening, the art of seeing, the art of learning gives extraordinary clarity. And therefore, that clarity can communicate verbally, right? So there is the skill in action. If there is no clarity, it breeds self-importance. Whether that self-importance is identified with a group, with oneself, or with a nation. that self-importance denies clarity, naturally. So, skill, clarity, and compassion. You cannot have clarity without compassion. And because we have no compassion, skill has become more important. Right? May I take a rest a bit? It is very important to understand this. Because when you listen to all this seriously, with attention, and therefore sharing together in our thinking, logically and so on, when you have this compassion, clarity and skill, then you become the teacher. Because then you have the teaching. Not mine or in, the teaching. And so it becomes extraordinarily important for a person who listens. And this clarity is denied when there is any form of fear. Right? And most human beings have great deal of fear, which denies compassion. Right? Fear. Oh God, need we go through all that? Fear of various kinds. Fear of growing old, fear of losing your husband, wife, losing your girl, boy, and so on. Fear of not being successful, various forms of fear. I hope you are aware of your own fears. You may not be aware of them sitting here at the present moment, but if you are serious, you don't have to invite fear, it is there. So you can look at the fear now. Right? You don't have to say, well, I'm not afraid at the moment, and I can't recall my fears, which is absurd. Because you are a living human being now. And in that state, your fears are, though they may be dormant, are still there. Right? Consciously or unconsciously. So, fear, in any form, both physiological as well as psychological, distorts clarity. And therefore, a person that is afraid in any form has no compassion. We'll go into the whole question of compassion later, much, but let's take all this together. So, if you see, that is, as I said, the art of seeing, the art of observing very clearly, and that's only possible when you say, when you don't want to get rid of fear, because then that becomes a distorting factor, or you are unconscious of your fears, which is also a distorting factor. Right? So to be aware of the fear, the many fears which have a common root, right? Agree to this? Oh, come on. It's like a tree. A tree has many, many branches and many leaves. And Fear also has many branches, many leaves, many expressions of fear, which breed their own flowering and their own fruit, which is action, right? So one must go to the very root of fear, not take various forms of fears, but the root of fear. Is that clear? Look, one may be afraid of darkness. One may be afraid of losing one's wife or husband. One may be afraid of having no money. One may be afraid of some past pain and not wanting it again. One may be afraid of dozen things. And analytically, you can go through them one by one, right? Which is such a waste of time, isn't it? Whereas it would be much simpler and more direct if you go to the root of fear, right? I don't think many of us realize or are aware deeply the nature of fear, what it does to human beings. Because when there is fear, there is many kinds of neurotic actions. Fear of being lonely. You know, most of us are, most of you are lonely. And so you seek companionship, escaping from loneliness. So companionship becomes very important. And if you have no companionship, fear arises. Or, out of that loneliness, you build a wall around yourself. You resist. You escape. And out of that escape, resistance, suppression, grows every form of neurotic action. So, it is very important to understand the nature and the structure of fear, because it will not give clarity. And there is no clarity, there is no awakening of intelligence, which is our meaning that we have gathered together here to see if we cannot awaken that intelligence which is neither yours nor mine. It is intelligence. And that intelligence has its own action, which is non-mechanistic, and therefore without cause.
The third extract is from the third talk in Madras 1979 and is titled, In Awakening Intelligence is Order and Security.
We are coming to a great crisis, or we are in it, which is our consciousness. The content of our consciousness is our consciousness. Content being fear, anxiety, action, exploitation, grief, misery, confusion, pride, envy, all that is our consciousness. And we are asking, can that consciousness be transformed totally? Something totally beyond. And we are saying it can. That is, it can be transformed, and there is a different kind of security. Not the security which thought has created, which is not security. And if in listening to what is being said and you are following it carefully, you are awakening that intelligence. You're following this? In that intelligence there is complete security. We are using the word intelligence in a different sense. The word intelligence means, ordinarily, the capacity to understand, to discern, to subtly read between the lines. Interleggere means to read between the lines, from Latin, Greek, and so on. I won't go into etymological meaning. So, we are using the word intelligence in its purest sense, not the intelligence of a clever man, argumentative, opinionated, wanting to discuss whether trying to find out through opinions what is truth, and all that. That's not intelligence. That's mere cleverness, which is the operation of thought. We are saying intelligence is not the product of thought. Intelligence, please, I'm going to it now, please listen. Intelligence is the observation of these facts. The facts that discipline has been made to submit, right? Submit to authority. If you see the falseness of that, if you see what are the implications in that word discipline, which is to conform to authority, submitting everything to accept that. If you see that, if you understand that, that is, if you understand the truth of that, that is to learn. If you see the truth of that, you are awakening intelligence. So you will no longer submit to external or inward authority. I'm not saying you shouldn't pay tax. Don't jump into that. Or the policeman. You can't drive on the wrong side of the road. So if you observe how discipline has become the ordinary word discipline as a means of security, right? And you see in that discipline conformity creates conflict. And if you see that, observe it closely, that very observation is the awakening of intelligence, which is to learn. Learning is a movement, not a static state. All right. So, we're going to examine what is order. To find out the order that has been created by man through thought, with a desire to be secure, and is there security in that order? If there is not, then the discovery of that which is disorder is the awakening of intelligence. You're following all this? So, when there is disintelligence, in that there's complete and total security. It is the function of all of us here to think this out together. What is order? I hope you're all working as hard as I'm working. I don't know why I work so hard for you all. I know you'll go back home and do exactly the same thing as you did before. Which means that you don't take anything seriously. As long as your little jobs, little house, a wife and a few children, and God knows what else, doesn't matter what happens, just little corner of the vast field of humanity. So we are now inquiring into what is order, which one must have. All religions throughout the world have laid down certain rules. If you want to achieve God, you must be a celibate, you must be poor, you must have the capacity to obey. Haven't you noticed all this? And the church, Roman Catholic, other churches say this is the law. And as long as you obey, you are going to realize that extraordinary thing called God, if there is such thing. That's order. Joining an organization, please listen to all this, spiritual or worldly, joining it, you feel safe, and the organization says you must do this, you must do that, you must not do this. And you are trained to obey. And this obedience is called order. You go to the office. I don't know why you go to offices. No, sir, don't laugh. Just think of it. Going every day of your life for the next 50, 60 years. See the tragedy of it all. And you say, if I don't go, how shall I support my family? How shall I educate my children? I must have money. So I must be stupid. We don't want to find a new way of living. We have created this society, we human beings, and we won't change it. Too bad. So, organizations, societies, ashramas, gurus offer a peculiar kind of order. And most people, intelligent people, are rebelling against it, throwing out all that kind of order. But in their rebellion, they are creating an order which is also disorder. You see it, sir. Drugs, drink, sex, all that's in a permissive world. So what is order? Order, please listen, in which there is no conformity. No, I'm using the word carefully, please, attention. I'm using the word no discipline. Discipline in the sense submitting to authority. But discipline in the real meaning of that word, to learn. When the mind is learning, it's creating its own discipline. Not discipline of conformity. The discipline that comes through attention. That is how I go. So when you're learning, as we are doing now, I hope you are. When you are learning now as we are, your mind is soaking in. If you're alive, if you're sensitive, if you're really hearing what is being said, it's absorbing. Without any compulsion, without any reward, without any punishment. Because we have gathered here to be serious. And your seriousness is awake, wants to find out. So, there is order where there is intelligence. The word intelligence which I have explained, which the speaker has explained. There is no order if there is mere compulsion, obedience, conformity. You're following all this? Joining organizations, spiritual this and that, ashramas, dictatorships of the gurus and all that. In that there is no order. And because human beings have done this for millennia, somebody will tell us what to do. I don't know, but tell me, please. That's the cry. And that very thing has created disorder. So one finds the fact of disorder. You understand, sir? The fact of disorder, which is our life. In understanding that disorder in our life, objectively, that is not trying to change the disorder to your own particular comfort or this or that, to observe, to see this disorder in our life, disorder being contradiction. Say one thing and do another. The cultivation of hypocrisy which we have indulged in. The contradictory desires, contradictory ideals, this desire for power, position, all that's creating in our daily life disorder. If you see that clearly as a fact, then that clear observation brings about intelligence. And that intelligence, wherever it is creating order. You're following all this, for God's sake, follow. It's your life, sirs. So the mind, the brain, has always sought in this confusion, the confusion created by itself. Nobody has created it. You and we all have contributed to this disorder. And if we see this in our life, daily life, the conflicts, the antagonisms, the pride, the arrogance, the vanity, you follow? If you see that very clearly, And out of that clarity of perception comes order. That order is a living thing. It is not a blueprint. Shall I do this? Shall I not do this? And what shall I do tomorrow? It's not a blueprint, because intelligence is like a tremendous river. So the awakening of intelligence is the beginning of total happy security of human beings. Nowhere else will you have security except in that. And the moment there is that security, which means all the energy which has been expended in these conflicts and in these ideas where thought believed you could find security, which has all been wastage of energy, is now centered in intelligence. You understand, sirs? That is, in our relationship with each other, in our daily, everyday relationship with each other, man or woman, in that relationship, there is enormous wastage of energy in conflict. In each one asserting his own importance. You following all this? Each one acting in his own self-centered way, dominated by desire. And so, there is no love, no generosity, no real consideration for each other. So, relationship has become a hideous thing from which everybody wants to run away, either through divorce or trying to find another man or woman. But the same pattern is repeated. There is a man we know who is married 8 times. 8 times, you understand? Because he wants a relationship where he can feel safe, happy. He hasn't found it, and you won't either. Because relationship means, the word means, it comes from the word to relate, to look back, to refer to. The meaning of that word is that. To look back in memory. You understand? She's my wife, my husband. She has hurt me, she is possessed. You follow? All that is to look back. Memory. And our relationship is based on memory. Right? That's obvious, isn't it? So in that relationship there is no love, no happiness, nothing but this disastrous division. You hear this very clearly, you will go on doing the same thing tomorrow or tonight. So what will, please listen, what will make you change? A crisis, knock on the head, sorrow, tears, all that has happened. Crisis after crisis. We have shed tears endlessly. and nothing seems to change man. Because you are relying on somebody else to do the job. Your masters, your gurus, your books, your professors, your clever, cunning people who have new theories, new all that. Nobody says, I'm going to find out. Because the whole history of mankind is in you. And we never read our book. You understand, sir? It is all there. But we never take the trouble, the patience, and the persistent inquiry. And we prefer to live in this chaos, in this misery. So what will change? What will make you change? Sir, please ask yourself, burn with that question. Because we have fallen into the habit of meditation and we won't break that habit. Because we are always thinking we're going to get something. So, conscious meditation is no meditation. You understand what I'm saying? To deliberately sit down, repeat mantras and nothing, that's not meditation. That's a cheap escape. So what will make you change? You understand, sir? Your house is burning. And apparently, you don't pay attention. So you see, if you don't change, society remains as it is, and the clever people are coming along and say society must be changed, which means new structure. And through that structure, hope to change man. You follow this? And then say, yes, we are doing both, change man and the new structure. The structure then becomes more important than man, as all revolutions have pointed out. So, after listening for an hour and 5 minutes or 10 minutes, is there a learning? Is there an awakening of intelligence? Is there a sense of order in our lives? Or we are going back to the same routine? So, sirs and ladies, if you have that intelligence, that goodness, that sense of great love, then you will create a marvelous new society where we can all live happily. It's our earth, not Indian earth or the English earth or the Russian earth. It's our earth where we can live happily, intelligently, not at each other's throats. So please, give your heart and mind to find out why you don't change. Even little things. They say don't smoke. You get up, immediately begin to smoke. See, So please pay attention to your own life. You've got extraordinary capacity, sirs. It's all waiting for you to open the door.
The final extract in this episode is from the 7th discussion in Saanen 1971 and is titled, Have You Got This Intelligence?
What is the relationship of the unknown to the known? What is the relationship between the measurable and that which is not measurable? Right? There must be a liaison. And that is intelligence. Intelligence has nothing whatsoever to do with thought. You may be awfully clever, very good at argument, very learned, have experienced, lived a tremendous life, been all over the world, investigating, searching, looking, accumulated a great deal of knowledge. Practice Zen, Hindu meditation. But all that has nothing whatsoever to do with intelligence. Intelligence comes into being when the mind, the heart, and the body are really harmonious. Therefore, follow this up. The body must be highly sensitive, not gross, not, eating, drinking, and all the rest, sex, all that makes the body coarse, dull, heavy. Therefore, you have to understand all that. The very seeing the fact of that makes you eat less, makes the body, gives the body its own intelligence. There is an awareness of the body which is not being forced, all the rest of it. So the body becomes very, very, very sensitive, like a beautiful instrument. The same with the heart, which is it is never hurt and can never hurt another. That is innocency of the heart. Not to hurt and not be hurt. And the mind, having no fear, demanding no pleasure. Not that you cannot enjoy the beauty of life, beauty of the tree, beauty of a beautiful face, looking at children, the flow of water, the mountains, the green pastures. There is great delight in that. But that delight, when pursued by thought, becomes pleasure. So the mind has to be, empty to see clearly. So, the relationship between the immeasurable, the unknown, and the known is in this intelligence, which has nothing whatsoever to do with Buddhism, with Zen, with me or with you, with absolutely nothing to do with authority or tradition. Now, have you got that intelligence? That's the only point that matters. Then that intelligence will operate in this world morally. You understand? Morality then is order, which is virtue. Not the virtue of the morality of society, which is totally immoral. So that intelligence brings about order, which is virtue, and therefore a thing that's living, not mechanical. Right? Therefore you can never practice being good. You can never practice trying to become humble. When there is that intelligence naturally brings about order and the beauty of order. Now, so this is a religious life. Not all the foolery around it. Now, have you, listening to the speaker, have you understood this? Understood not verbally or intellectually, but actually seen the truth of this. Therefore, if you see the truth of it, it will act. If you see the truth that a snake is dangerous, the truth, you act. If you see the danger of a precipice, the fact, the truth of it, you act. If you see the truth of arsenic, the poison, you act. Wait. So, do you see this? Or do you still live in the world of ideas? If you live in the world of ideas, conclusions, then that's not truth. That's just a projection of thought. So that is the real question. Whether listening to this, as you have listened for the last 3 weeks, in which all the varieties of human existence, suffering, pain, pleasure, sex and immorality and all the rest of it, social injustice, national divisions, wars, whether you see the truth of this and therefore there is that intelligence which operates, not me operating, right? When you say, I must be myself, which is the slogan or the cliche of modern generation, which is, I must be myself, when you examine that word, I must be myself, what is myself? A lot of words, a lot of conclusions, traditions, reactions, memories, a bundle of the past. And you say, I want to be myself, which is, too childish. So, after having listened to all this, is there that awakening of that intelligence? And if there is that awakening of that intelligence, then it will operate. Then you don't have to say, what am I to do? And as perhaps there have been 1,000 persons here during this week, during these 3 weeks that have listened, if they really live that, do you know what's going to happen? We'll change the world. We will be the salt of the earth.